My name is Dr. Leonard Zabian. I'm starting this log in the event my memories are altered and/or removed during the upcoming months. This will be a brief summary of the events leading me to my current situation. I fear that, starting tomorrow, I'll be unable to trust my own memories. Regardless, I'm attempting to record my thoughts. Hopefully, this will provide me with some ability to recall moments either lost or stolen from my consciousness. Log start, August 9th, 2020. I've worked as a psychological researcher for the last 11 years. I was, at one point, content with my life. I'd see patients during the day, then return home to my wife and daughter in the evening. My wife, Dr. Julia Lance, was a bioengineer. She didn't share much about her job. She preferred to leave work at the office. It wasn't until recently I discovered why. 7 months ago, she was killed in a car accident on her way home from work. My daughter and I held a small service and never really spoke of her afterwards. Neither of us wanted to continue revisiting painful memories. Eventually, though, I'd be forced to. One of her supervisors contacted me a few days ago, asking if they were allowed to clear out her desk or if I needed to make sure all of her personal items had been removed. I decided I'd check, just in case there was anything of importance to our family she'd kept with her at the office. I arrived at her lab around 7:30 the following day, not knowing that my life was about to be set on the path of total destruction. Before entering, I was greeted by her research partner, a well-known mechanical engineer and a longtime family friend, Eleanor Richards, although I noticed something off about her. It had only been a few months since my wife's passing, yet Eleanor seemed to be so happy. For someone who had recently lost their best and, to my knowledge, only friend. I decided not to dwell on it, assuming it was a front that she was holding as a way of avoiding the realization that Julia was truly gone. I pitied her. She wasn't the only one who'd lost their best friend that day. She'd enthusiastically invited me to their lab, but I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out why. The corridors of the building were dim and somewhat eerie. The further we got down the halls, the more I couldn't shake the feeling of impending danger. The facility was impressive. The walk from the entrance to my wife and Eleanor's lab took nearly 45 minutes. The entire trip was spent in silence. Uncomfortable, mind-numbing silence. Upon arrival, Eleanor welcomed me to their lab and immediately tried starting conversation as I looked through the remainder of Julia's belongings. I tuned her out almost instantly. It wasn't intended to be rude, I just didn't want to hear anything about my late wife's work life. She kept it private for reasons I was yet to understand, but I respected her need to leave it unsaid, and I didn't intend on ignoring her desires. However, while searching through Julia's things, I caught the back end of what Eleanor was saying. "I wish she'd get back here already. It's been months, and I really miss her." Immediately, I looked up at Eleanor. I began searching her facial expression and her body language for anything strange. But she seemed genuine, like she was blissfully unaware of Julia's passing. I knew better than that, though. Eleanor had been at my wife's service. She had been the one to call me and deliver the news. My first thought was she was in the middle of a mental breakdown, but upon further inspection, there were no visible signs of distress or fatigue. I then considered the possibility of her making a sick joke. in an attempt to lighten the mood that had fallen flat. That still couldn't have been the case. The look in her eyes was so genuine, as if she wholeheartedly believed that Julia was merely away on a trip. My only real option was to confront her about it. Elle, Julia isn't on a trip. You know that. Her face immediately shifted into confusion and worry, like she was learning of the accident for the first time. What do you mean? She's been gone for 7 months. Is she okay? What happened to her? Eleanor began panicking and tearing up. She really had no clue. She was entirely unaware of Julia's passing. I spoke to her again, softly, hoping to lighten the blow. Elle, Jules died. There was an accident. She was on her way home from work. As she was pulling out of the parking lot, a truck hit the driver's side door. She's gone, Elle. You were the one who told me. Remember? You spoke at her service. Eleanor turned pale, looking down at her hands. The look of pure fear and terror spread across her face. Such a deep and intense horror and pain like none I'd ever seen before. I did what? How do I... Why can't I remember? Her voice had dropped to a barely audible whisper. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face, and barely managed to choke out the words. They said she'd regret trying to cure them. They did it. Then they made me forget. They killed her. Hey guys, to whoever's hearing this, thank you for listening. This is just a little something I was working on. It started out from a bit of a nerdy side quest, and I just kept adding onto it until there was the beginnings of a story. I do know where I want this to go, but I don't know if I should continue writing it, or if it's any good to begin with. So please feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions down below. This is just a test. I probably will go back at some point and rewrite this first section. For those who voted to have this be made, thank you. I very much appreciate having that kind of push to get this done. Either way, thank you. Have a wonderful evening or morning, depending on when you're watching this. And don't forget to praise Fuij the Overseer. Peace.